And without giving it too much away, without getting you super excited, but this is something that's going to happen. Eventually, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to do another review here because it is July 28th, and as we wait for the month to wind down so we can do another set of financial statements for July, figured might as well do another review to kind of share where we've been since the last review. The last review was over here. After we had categorized part 1, we automated everything and we started tracking and so on. So that's pretty much where the first review was. We've come quite a long way since the first review. We started tackling the debt pretty much, and we finished out June and built an emergency fund and started automatically aggressively paying debt down. And that's where we started. That's where we started. So we're going to do a little bit of review. I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time to see how it works here. I want to talk a little bit about what it is that we've built, so you kind of get like a more of a conceptual understanding of where we've been, because we spend a lot of time here, and this has really become the sort of like the centralized dashboard of the entire system, is looking at this thing and saying, okay, I can make some changes, or I need to set this up, or I want to add this account here. We're spending a lot of time here, so I want to kind of do a broader review of what has been happening since the last time. And I want to note that I took away the Vanguard account that was here and actually stopped the transactions into it, because we're going to set that up later, and I want to make this like step by step. I don't want it to be like, oh yeah, I have this thing, by the way, and it's I got money going there every month and you don't know where it's going, right? I'm not ready yet to introduce that into the system because we still have debt to pay off and we still have other things to do before we get there. We're going to open up investment accounts and IRAs and Roth IRAs and that sort of thing later on. So once we get to that point, then it'll come back and I'll put it back onto the map here. But for now, I have removed that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do like a progress review, if you will. Okay, and to start this off, we're just going to take a blank piece of paper here, and starting really very from the beginning, after we decided why that we wanted to do this, right? The very first thing that we did was our why exercise, which was figuring out, just asking why a bunch of times like an annoying child, to get to the root of why it is that you want to do this. That's an important step to do. So right after that, the thing that we did right after that was to look ourselves in the mirror. I call it the financial mirror. The reason we do that is to see ourselves. Like, where our money is going is a reflection of our values. So if we just look at where our money has gone for the last 3, 6, 12 months, I did 3 months. I recommend doing at least 3 months, ideally 6 months. And if you're really hardcore, you do 12 months because that's going to get you the most amount of value from the exercise. But I saw where every single one of my transactions was for the last 3 months, and that was the financial mirror. And that did a couple things. One, it got me sort of motivated to be like, oh yeah, I can get this set up and I can fix this. 2, because my expenses were lower than my cash flow, it was like, oh, okay, I have some extra money that I can start using immediately. If you're not in that situation, if you find that your average monthly expenses are higher than what you're bringing in, then you're in a situation where the ship is sinking and you got to do something about it. I wasn't in that situation, luckily, so I was able to just kind of skip over that part and go directly into okay, how can I use this money now? And the other thing that it does for us, it gives us everything that we need in order to set up a budget. Everything that we need in order to set up tracking. It becomes super easy after that, because we got all the accounts, we got an approximation, an estimation of what our spending was for the last 3 months. So the budget is easy, because a budget is all a budget is just an estimation of spending for the next couple of months or the next month or whatever. So it makes it really easy to do that. So the next thing we did, and we're going to take a look at what it is that we actually did, because I don't remember. Okay, all right. I got an idea for what to do here. Okay. So basically what we have done so far in this series is build a piece of machinery. And there's our machinery. Okay? Technically, well, I don't know if you recognize what this is, but this is a, what is it? A hydraulic pump. I think it's called a hydraulic pump. Oh, it's a centrifugal pump. Yeah. It's a centrifugal pump. Okay, so technically this is a centrifugal pump, and I don't know why it came to mind when I was drawing this out. It just did. Okay, and this is kind of like a representation of what we have built. Okay, we have money coming in to our system like that, right? That's the inflows that's happening. We have money being lost, quote unquote, to expenses. This is the expenses part, right? It's like a red arrow because it symbolizes heat loss in the mechanical world or whatever. And then we also have a place for money to go that isn't lost to expenses over here. All right. So this is pretty much what we built. I'm going to draw a little box around it here. So this is what we've done. This is the realm of tracking, right? That we have drawn out in this other page over there. This is what we're drawing right now. Okay. And you can see the inflows and the outflows and how all the arrows coincide with this. But this is basically what we built. All right. And this machine, this personal financial machinery, it takes in money that we make, right? This is our earned income, or it's also a little bit of interest income, and eventually there's going to be other types of income that are going to be coming into this thing. And then the pump, you need to run the pump as part of life. And a little bit of money goes out. You know, you gotta pay rent, you gotta buy food, you gotta do all these things. These are your day-to-day expenses. Part of the financial, we did our save $1,000 challenge, which helped to decrease the amount of losses that we're getting from heat. Yeah, right. Decrease the expenses so that this number, this arrow could get bigger. So that's what we got. And this money here, right? The money here that the pump is pushing out is sort of like useful money, and we're using that to do different things like eliminate debt. And in the future we're going to have other goals, like we're going to have goal TBD, for example, and then we're going to have a goal TBD2, right? And this is just going to be super useful because we're just going to, once we eliminate debt, that goes away, and we're just going to move this up and be like, okay, now we're focused on this next thing that we need to do, that we want to do. And when that's out of the way, then we just move this thing up. It's going to be like a rotating something or other, one of those things that just rotates and you push the stuff into the, I don't know, it's like a valve, right? I'm trying my best to relate this to like mechanical machinery here, right? But there's also other things that we did, right? The machine is going to work fine as long as there's income coming in here. If you remove the income, that's going to be a problem, right?
A centrifugal pump will not pump air, and it will not suck fluid through piping like a straw. So before the pump is turned on, the casing must be flooded with fluid, a process known as priming. And during operation, there must be a sufficient amount of available fluid under positive pressure at the suction inlet of the pump to replace the fluid which is being discharged. If the pump is ever starved of fluid, certainly the pump's performance will be affected, but it's actually more serious than that. It's possible that the pressure at the suction eye of the impeller will drop below the vapor pressure of the pumped fluid. If that happens, then the fluid will effectively boil. Little bubbles will form, travel partway through the impeller, and then collapse at supersonic speeds like little bullets, taking bits of the impeller along with it. This is a condition known as cavitation, and a pump that's experiencing cavitation is not long for this world.
So what else that we did is we put a fail-safe for this machine, and the fail-safe is essentially an emergency fund. And we put the emergency fund up here graphically because for some reason if the income goes away, then what we do is we just put the emergency fund there and turn the little valve and put that money into this machine so that all this stuff still works and this still happens. Well, I don't know. I mean, we can also stop this if we want, but this is going to happen regardless. So this is keeping the machine going, right? So that's another thing that we've done. We've added in a fail-safe for this machinery that we built here. Okay, and then the other thing that we've done, we did this actually before we hooked up the emergency fund here, but we set up tracking for every single thing. So we knew exactly what this is, and what this is. And the way that I did that was with the budget software called YNAB. So we set this up, right? We hooked it up to the kind of like the flux here. So we're measuring the flux, the money coming in to the system. We're measuring the money leaving the system in terms of like losses, expenses. And then we're also using this to measure the amount of money that we're putting towards our goals here. So it's a super useful tool, right? It's basically taking the entire system and it's giving us the readings from all the inflows and the outflows. So really cool thing. And then we're using those, the numbers from YNAB, the readings, we're using those to make our personal financial statements. So every month we're going to be making the cash flow statement, the income statement, and the balance sheet for that month. We have June already. We have July coming up. So we're going to be making the personal financial statements for July. We're using the readings from YNAB to do that. And that's what it's going to be. This is pretty much what we've built, guys. This is pretty much it. And now, like looking at it, it seems really simple, right? It seems really intuitive, and it makes a lot of sense. And when it comes down to it, this is going to be the core of everything else that we do. Really, it's going to be the core for everything else that we do in this whole series. There's other things to it. There's more. Like we still haven't talked about protections for ourselves and for the machine, right? Like we haven't talked about insurance yet. We haven't talked about investments yet. We haven't talked about, like, eventually there's going to be a way. I kind of hinted at it before, right? But essentially there's going to be something that looks kind of like this. And without giving it too much away, without getting you super excited, but this is something that's going to happen. Eventually this is what it's going to look like, right? So the output of this thing is it's not going to go directly into here because that wouldn't make any sense at all. But it's going to go into some kind of bucket like this, right? And this is going to be like an investment bucket, for example. And that investment is going to produce, I guess, so the arrow should be drawn over here, I guess. But that investment is going to produce money that is later going to be that's going to go back into the machine, and then we can put it back into the system here, and that's what's going to work. So that's what we're going towards. But really what we build here is the core, and not really that much is going to change in terms of what we built. We're going to add more things on this side, right? That's what I've been hinting at is on this side. This side is very well defined at this point, but this side still has a lot of blank space and emptiness in it. There's a couple things that we've added there, but there's a lot more that's going to go into there. So that's going to be super exciting, right? We're going to use this machine to do all kinds of really cool stuff. But for now, we're just going to let the machine run. We're just going to let it run, maybe for another month and maybe for another 2 months. So there's not really going to be that many videos, probably. I don't know. There's going to be, right now, for example, I think the last thing that I made was a video about the balance transfer and paying off debt more quickly. So there are more efficiencies that we could probably put into this machine, like that kind of thing. But for the most part, we're just going to let it run. I'm going to go live my life and enjoy it and work on this and work on that and do other kinds of things. And this machine is just going to be working in the background. Like, it's going to require a little bit of maintenance. For example, like when the Amex card is paid off, then I'm going to, instead of putting $600 there, I'm going to say, okay, we're going to put $888 into this card instead and pay that off, right? It's going to require a little bit of maintenance, but not too much. Like, I think the next time where I'm going to have to do anything in terms of changing values on the machine is going to be in about 4 months. And that's pretty cool, right? It's at this point, it's like I can go back to the way I was I haven't really changed that much about the way I'm living my life, really. All I've done is built this thing. And if I just go and continue living my life as I had before, right? I'm more conscious, I'm more aware of my spending now and what I'm gonna, like if I go out to eat, I'm those things are just kind of happening naturally rather than me forcing them to happen. And I'm not like getting all worked up if I have to go out to eat or buy food outside. I'm like, okay, this is fine because I kind of know that I'm going to be okay if I get this thing. Like the machine is still going to work. But at the same time, I know that it's going to be more efficient for the machine if I do make the food at home. Like instead of buying a work lunch, I'll make the food at home, make some whatever and bring it with me. I know that's going to help the machine run a little better. So I have that in the back of my mind, and I'm sort of consciously, unconsciously now making decisions to help the machine work a little bit more efficiently. But I'm not really thinking about it that much. I'm really not. I'm not like agonizing over every single expense or decision that I make to spend money. And it might be a little unfair for me to say this because I went through that process like 4 years ago when I started this. When I started tracking and started budgeting everything, I was really agonizing over every single dollar I spent, and it hurt to spend money. But I don't know. I mean, I can't say that you're not going to go through that because you might go through it. But also you might not. I mean, you don't have to go through it. I think a lot of people in the beginning, there's like an initial like resistance to doing these things because they don't like the financial mirror. Somebody just gave a kind of like a review of the financial mirror exercise. So it was kind of like an icky exercise because it's not nice looking in the mirror if you don't like what you see, right? And that's part of the whole process is you gotta look those things that you don't like, that you're afraid to do, or you're afraid to look at. You gotta look at them and see like, oh, okay, all right. And then if you don't like it, you ask yourself, say, why don't I like this? What's wrong with this? Because all that stuff that's kind of getting in the way, those serve to increase the heat output or the wasted, money or the wasted energy from this machine. And it just takes longer. However big this is, right, the smaller this is going to be. Like if you can get this thing lower, then this thing is going to be necessarily bigger because that's just how it works, right? But yeah, I mean, my point here is that like just knowing what's going on, being aware of what's going on, and every month looking at the statements. Because as I said in previous videos, everybody has these statements. Everybody has them. Whether you look at them or not is a different question. But everybody has them. And just by looking at them, things are moving in the right direction, right? So the awareness is really the key here. And having built this machinery to help us do what we want it to do is just the other, it's just a big positive in my book. Like I'm much better off for having built this machinery than if I were to just have continued living my life and not thought about it at all, because now I know. Now I know exactly what's going on with my money. Now I know. Before I didn't. I might have worried about it a little bit before, but now I have absolutely none at all. So that's a big benefit. That's what we built, guys. This is what we've done. And it all fits on one page, and it's so amazing. Okay, that's it. Bye.